AAT Birds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need. It's all birds, all the time.
And we're joined, as we're always joined, by Chip. But special guest, he's got a little bit of a, struggling voice here. He's under the weather a little bit. Mike Bauer is joining us again. We're going to do Eagles stay or go free agents. Eagle season ended a lot later than usual, which is a great thing because they won the Super Bowl. So the offseason is in full steam. It's right here. It's here. So we're going to do stay or go free agents. We're going to talk a little bit about Tush push drama because it's been brought up once again with the league at the combine. All the owners are together, everything along the lines of that. And Howie Roseman speaking in Indy, a couple things there. But the main focus here is the stay or go free agents because next week we're going to talk about free agents we could see the Eagles potentially acquiring. So we got to get going with free agency less than 2 weeks away. So got to get going on this. So the stay or go free agents is the Eagles free agents itself. Isn't players that they can cut, cap casualty, everything like that. Now Chip has a conspiracy theory about James Bradberry, which
I do.
I'm going to let you bring that up first.
Oh, right out the gate.
Right out of the gate. I want you to bring it up first. You got it. Make sure it's fresh in your mind. So go at it.
All right. So it came to be released after the season was over that James Bradberry had a torn ACL. And that was released in
torn Achilles.
But it was never, ever reported at any point during the season. In fact, it was, I believe, a mild ankle sprain or something like that was reported that put him on the injured reserve for the entire season, if I do remember correctly.
He was going to be out. I think it was a calf thing. He was something he was going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, it said.
But definitely not an Achilles. So here is my conspiracy theory that I would like to weigh in on.
Go ahead.
Is it possible? Because, again, we had an entire season of James Bradberry where none of this was ever mentioned. Had the Eagles not gotten as far as they did this year, would it have been released that James Bradberry did not really have this injury and instead was being kind of blackballed and said that he wasn't allowed to play for the team? Because don't the teams have some sort of requirement to report accurate information?
My only thing with it is this, he was placed on IR, was expected to be 6 to 8 weeks. Did potentially he tear his Achilles training to get back? We don't know that. I don't know that. But if he was healthy enough and they just held him out to hold him out, he wouldn't have been at the parade. He wouldn't have been at all the things. There would have been, to me, I think there would have been a little bit bigger of
right. And he looks like a leader the whole time. He was helping Quinyon Mitchell. He was doing all the things, right? But again, if you tore your Achilles, it seems a little far-fetched that it was just a calf injury and you're going to miss a whole season about it. I'm not saying I wanted James Bradberry to play. Please don't mistake that. I'm just curious to know if the Eagles had a bad season, would it have been more of the previous Howie Burners where it's all of the drama in Midnight Green?
I don't know. I think that's a little bit far-fetched. That's just my feeling on it.
Would you like my thoughts on it?
I would love your thoughts.
What are you kidding me?
I was waiting for it.
I don't know. It's hard to say, but you know what? Thank you, James Bradberry, for giving up that touchdown in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Thank you for whatever it is you've done to help players that can actually physically play the game of football now, which you cannot do. Yeah, It's a very good point. You're talking about accuracy in reporting injuries. Nick Sirianni in the past has shown that he's not the most accurate when it comes to reporting injuries. If you recall, I think Jalen earlier in the season had an ankle or, he popped up on the injury report with a knee or something. And then, Sirianni had said it's a rest day. He's that whole competitive advantage guy, which I think he takes too far at times. So, Chip, I can totally see what you're saying, because if Nick didn't tell you a different uniform color combination that he says they're going to wear, that his team competitive advantage, they're going to.
But Mike, what competitive advantage do you get by lying about James Bradberry's injury?
You know what you're going to get? You're going to get a fine from the NFL. That's what you're going to get.
All right.
That's why, admittedly, that's what's if they find out that you withheld information like that, I do believe they fine teams for things like that.
But again, nobody really asked, so
that's true, because nobody cared.
Nobody really asked.
The only thing I will say is because I do think Bradberry was expected to be such a non-factor this season and a surprise to even make the team, that he did make the team. It was one of those things where when Nakobe got hurt, you heard an update about Nakobe Dean almost daily. Like, oh, it was this, but they're expecting this, blah, blah, blah. But because Bradberry was so far out of everybody's mind and the season was going so well.
Yeah.
Not to discredit you, Chip, but I just think people just really didn't care about James Bradberry.
Nobody cared. It literally popped into my mind, and I was like, let me float something up. It's the offseason. Let's see if I can stir up some trouble.
Yeah. It's a good thought there, but I just don't think any of it's plausible. But this brings us to the Eagles stay or go free agency.
James Bradberry can go.
Yes, I told you it wasn't guys that are going to get cut, or like a Darius Slay potential restructure, cut, potential cap casualty. Brandon Graham's not on there, even though I know essentially he is quote unquote voided in his deal, but it's either he comes back or retires. I didn't have him on the list. Shame on me there. But, gonna bring it up here for us to all see. Let me put it all.
I'm still here, everyone.
Yeah. It's still here.
I'm Johnny Ulecka.
So here, this is it's not really better, but
just one quick update for everybody. Technically, Brandon Graham is under contract. He has 4 voided years. He will count $5.8 million towards the cap in 2025 and $4.4 million towards the cap in 2026. This is how Howie Roseman structures contracts. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Howie Roseman, all the flowers in the world. He has taken 3 separate teams to a Super Bowl now in his tenure as GM. So do your thing, Howie. Get to work.
Facts.
Alrighty. So what I have here is Zach Bond stays.
This is your list, right?
This is my list, and then you guys can depict what you think and kind of go from there. So I have my stays are Zach Bond, Mekhi Becton. On this section, there's another one that I'll put next, but it's really an easier one. This one will spend the most time on this. So Bond, Becton, Isaiah Rodgers, and Fred Johnson I have staying, which means I have Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Kenneth Gainwell, and Oren Burks going. So my emphasis of this is Bond and Becton are the big keys. I think Becton will go out there, see what his value is, and essentially come back and stay with the Eagles because of the success he had. I think Bond is the priority. He is the guy that they know they need to get under contract. They need to get the deal done. Isaiah Rodgers, to me, if you go ahead and let Darius Slay go as a cap casualty, knowing he only wants to play 1 more year, he's got a big deal. You can save some money if you post-June release him. I could see Isaiah Rodgers taking a starting spot there, a potential to fight for a starting spot. And, he played pretty well in his limited time on the defense. And Fred Johnson, to me, swing tackle, I don't think he's got a huge market out there. So essentially, I think he stays with the Eagles. And, for me, I think it would be a smart move for him. The goes, to me, it's pretty simple. Milton Williams and Josh Sweat are going to make big time money. And the Eagles, knowing they have extensions down the line with guys like Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis potentially, and you have other young players, Cam Jurgens, you have young players you have to get under contract. I don't think you have enough money to be able to sign them all. So Kenneth Gainwell, to me, I liked his role. Great on special teams. He was a good third down back, good blocker. But for me, I just think you can get that value in the draft if you wanted, or potentially in the free agent market for cheaper. I think he's going to get a bigger deal than a lot of people think. And then for me, Oren Burks, I believe he made himself some money. I would like to see Oren Burks stay just because with Nakobe Dean most likely being out a good amount of time next year with that injury that he suffered. Oren Burks, I think, he's going to get a contract offer from a team. It's going to be a little too rich.
Yeah.
So go ahead, break it down. What do you guys think in terms of how they keep
we each have our own lists. I mean,
I didn't upload your list. It's just my list. You guys are depicting my list. Easier that way.
Got it. All right. Well, Zach Bond absolutely needs to be signed. I think it's time that we spend some money on linebackers. There's no question about that. I think Mekhi Becton absolutely deserves every bit of money that we can give him because, I mean, Jeff Stoutland resurrected Becton's career. And I think that Mekhi Becton would take a little less to stay here because of that. And with two aging tackles, and not two aging tackles, but Lane Johnson as an aging tackle, I could also see Mekhi Becton being groomed as the right tackle of the future. It's actually why, Johnny, I think there is a market for Fred Johnson because he played very well in place of Jordan Mailata this year. And he's big size and he can play both ways. I think that as much as I like Fred Johnson, I think that there absolutely is a market for him. Oren Burks, kind of the same thing, whereas if we could keep him, cool. But I don't see any reason really to. I think that Isaiah Rodgers is an absolute must-keep. He's young. He's talented. He kind of showed out. It's great. I also, and Johnny and I kind of bounce back and forth on this, I think that Milton Williams, you got to kind of go out of your way to keep as well. Because you've seen the level of domination on the line that the Eagles provide, and I really want to try to make sure that that sticks around. Josh Sweat is going to be a cap casualty on this team. Not a cap casualty, but just a casualty of the whole thing. He's going to be expensive, and that's going to kind of be what it comes down to. Who is the go in the bottom left corner? I can't see.
That's Gainwell.
Oh, Gainwell, again, if we can keep him, cool. But like you said, we can get things for him. So I agree with Bond and Becton, and I think everybody does. I agree with Isaiah Rodgers. But I think I think you got to keep Milton Williams if you can.
The only thing with Milton Williams, it's the whole thing after 2022 with Javon Hargrave. He's just going to get a deal. It's just going to be way too much to try and sign. And knowing, like I said, knowing you have, Jalen Carter's contract is going to be absolutely ridiculous. Getting these, I understand the way the cap works and the way they maneuver money and stuff, but essentially you can't sign everybody, especially with the way they played, like a Josh Sweat and a Milton Williams, especially in the Super Bowl. It's just going to jack up their price because there's teams that, knowing the free agent market isn't as deep, they're the top free agents. They're going to get paid and get paid really big money.
Absolutely.
All right, I'll run through it here. To me, Zach Bond is your number one priority this offseason. No ifs, ands, or buts. Hey, look, good linebacker play. Look what it does for a defense.
Crazy. It helps you win a dang Super Bowl.
Yeah, I want Milton Williams to stay. I think Milton Williams wants to stay. Unfortunately, he's 25. He's won a Super Bowl. He might go get his bag. I agree with Charles in the essence of Mekhi Becton staying and possibly being our Lane Johnson replacement. And I was talking to Johnny about that the other day. Josh Sweat, fortunately, had one of the games of his life in the Super Bowl, the biggest stage of the NFL. We won't be able to afford to keep him. Kenneth Gainwell can go away. He's fine. He was a 5th-round draft pick. If you want to replace Kenneth Gainwell, on NFL Mock Draft Database.com, there's a player projected in the 5th round, R.J. Harvey from USF. There's your Kenneth Gainwell replacement. He's a 1-for-1 replacement for Kenneth Gainwell, except he's more physical. Will Shipley's fine, but he's slow. Isaiah Rodgers needs to stay. It's not Keely Ringo time quite yet. Also, Isaiah Rodgers did the thing that Rasul Douglas used to do. I have to come into the game. You're going to throw at me. I'm either going to knock it down or intercept it. I do think Oren Burks actually will stay. I don't know if the market for him is going to be very big. They might need him until Nakobe is ready. And Fred Johnson, I would like to see him stick around too. I do agree with Chip as far as I think there's going to be a market for Fred Johnson. 2 years under Jeff Stoutland, he's probably better than some other starting tackles out there.
Yeah.
If Fred Johnson's a starting tackle, however, he should be a right tackle, not a left tackle. He could play left in a pinch, but to me, he's a right tackle. Admittedly, I'd love to see all these guys stay.
Right, and looking at I know some of the other names that are going to come up, like when the reason why I let Fred Johnson go is because I think the Eagles keep Jack Driscoll, who can play multiple positions as a backup lineman.
Didn't they just release him the other day?
No, that was Nick Gates.
No, okay, whatever. Same thing.
Yeah, Jack Driscoll, who can play tackle, guard, and center. I think they would put more of a priority on rather than just Fred Johnson, who's kind of a one-to-one tackle replacement.
The only problem with Mekhi Becton is if you're planning on keeping him around till whenever Lane retires and moving him out to tackle, you're going to have to draft another guard because Tyler Steen's not going to just want to wait around forever. He's good enough to be a starting guard in this league. He should be right now. It's just unfortunate for him that he got hurt and Becton came in and
and hell, maybe you keep Becton at right guard for the remainder of his career. I'm not even saying you move him out to right tackle. There will be right tackles available as the years continue because I think Lane Johnson has another 2-3 years in him, maybe more. But Mekhi Becton dominated this year.
And don't forget this: Steen was a tackle at Texas,
right?
So it's not like he can't do it. He just hasn't been asked
right. And I think that as you look at kind of bang for your buck situation, the reason why I would say Driscoll over Johnson is because for those backup positions, we know the Eagles love guys that can play multiple positions. Yeah, Fred Johnson isn't that guy. Fred Johnson is a tackle.
Yeah. As you're bringing that up, let's go to the rest of them, I guess you could say. So Ben Van Sumeren, I have stay. He is an ERFA, which is an exclusive rights free agent, which essentially he's back on your team. You give him the minimum deal. He has to accept it or he just has to sit out, essentially. So I believe he'll be back. I know he's coming off an ACL. I love that they had him at fullback and played special teams and I'd like to definitely see him back. He's not going to cost you much. It's going to be, super low level deal. I have Jack Driscoll going because I had Fred Johnson staying. So you could switch those if you wanted, on that.
I will. I will.
Rick Lovato staying, the long snapper. I know he struggled a little bit with some of the snaps, but I just, keep that continuity between the punter, long snapper, and kicker. So I have him staying. And then the bottom three guys all go. Uzoma, Maddox, and Paris Campbell. So it's pretty clear cut with these, but it's just where it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as far as Ben Van Sumeren, I mean, if I told you when I filled mine out, Johnny, that you have a better understanding of the salary cap. He is literally on my list as the last keep, if possible, ranked in order of one. I don't care if we keep Ben Van Sumeren at all.
Yeah.
If he's cheap, great. He's a body.
He's not going to cost much, but they like him because of the skill set. Because
I love the fullback piece. You know that.
He plays fullback, great special teamer, but he's also has the athletic tools that they want to see, and that's why they got him paid him a lot of money as an undrafted free agent to get him out of Michigan State is because of that. So I don't think they're just going to let him walk. I think they'll offer him the exclusive rights free agent, let him play another year, and just kind of go from there. Especially with their linebacker depth is basically non-existent. If you let Van Sumeren go and you let Oren Burks go and Nakobe Dean's hurt, the only other linebacker on the roster is Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And that's it. With Zach, well, that's it if you don't sign Bond either. So, yeah, I would say he would stay.
Like I said, I don't care if you keep him cool. If not cool, just don't overpay him. Jack Driscoll, I think, is an absolute keep. I mean, I already made that case. Rick Lovato, again, he's not going to cost you very much, but I also don't necessarily care. He is right above Ben Van Sumeren on my list of big who cares. CJ Uzoma did nothing by Avante Maddox finally made a play in the Super Bowl, but we have the depth to replace him for sure. Paris Campbell, he can go. You didn't mention
Chip, since you said Paris Campbell, the one thing that was interesting, remember early in the year, there was a story about Paris Campbell and how they were going to cut him, and Sirianni wanted him on the practice squad, and he said he didn't want to go to the practice squad and stuff, and Sirianni called him and said and convinced him to go on to the practice squad, saying, later in the year we could need you, everything, and just like swayed him to come in the practice squad. And look and behold, he was active in the playoffs and active in the Super Bowl, I believe. And he didn't do anything really, but special
and that's great. He's a Super Bowl winner now. He's special teams player. He can run up and down the field. He's just not a factor in this offense, and you can replace him for an undrafted free agent at this point. Again, I just don't think that's money that you need to spend. You didn't mention anything about Britton Covey.
Yeah, you're right. I did forget him.
He can go. As far as
I just don't know how his neck is. The neck injury thing is what scares me, because he's not a big guy. If he practiced, but then he was always inactive. And they never took him off of IR. So to me, how bad is that neck injury?
You forgot LaRaven Clark. He can go.
Well, I told you I wasn't going to have certain guys on there. LaRaven Clark was on the practice squad injured list the whole season. Yeah. Nick Gates was just released. They're not going to really bring him back.
So again, my list was no matter what, you got to keep Bond Becton. I really think that Milton Williams is important. Driscoll and Rodgers. I wrote gone with no problem is Maddox, Clark, Uzoma, Fred Johnson, and Paris Campbell. And then keep, if possible, ranked in order. Brandon Graham, if he doesn't retire, you got to keep him. He's got to be an Eagle. Sweat, keep if possible, but you're not going to be able to keep him because financially he's going to cost you too much. Yeah. Gainwell, again, nice piece. You're not going to be able to keep him. Oren Burks, if you can keep him, cool. He probably made himself some money. Britton Covey, if you can keep him, cool. Rick Lovato, if you can keep him, cool. Ben Van Sumeren, if you can keep him, cool. I think that you got to prioritize. And if, again, just like the Eagles, I'm prioritizing the line. So out of my must keep, 3 of them are linemen, defensive or offensive.
Yeah. So I have another question here. And it's something that was posed to me. On the 2017 team, you have certain players, you're like, oh, wow, he had a Super Bowl. Like one of those names that, like Will Beatty, he's got a Super Bowl ring with the Eagles. Cool. Donnell Ellerbe. Like there's some of those names that's like, oh, wow, they got a Super Bowl ring with the Eagles.
Donnell Pumphrey.
Oh, God.
When all's said and done, Jahan Dotson's going to be that guy.
No.
I actually see a bigger role for Dotson.
I do too, which is the other reason why I get rid of Paris Campbell.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Looking at it, looking at this team and people being like, oh, wow, he was on the roster when they won a Super Bowl. Who
James
you guys?
Bradbury.
Bradbury B. He's going to get one.
Kenny Pickett.
Hey, he has more snaps in the Super Bowl than Dak Prescott.
Tanner McKee is going to be what?
Chip's just eating his words with Tanner McKee because he said he
played great.
Maybe they could turn it into a trade for, maybe a great defensive player with some picks added onto it. But so you're going with I know you said Jahan Dotson, Chip, but
no, I was just kidding. Jahan Dotson is going to be your slot receiver next year, and he's going to continue just to be a growing piece of this offense.
I agree.
Yeah, I forget who I said. Let's go to the depth chart website that I like to use. Chip uses ESPN, unfortunately.
Oh.
Yeah. Mike and I were having a conversation about our lads, and I had to make sure I brought that up, Chip, just because it's what I do.
Tristan McCollum is going to be on that list.
No, it's going to be because you can also do. Let me see here. I believe it's going to be a guy like Louis Cine.
Oh yeah.
They picked him up from Buffalo, but even a guy too, like a Byron Young, who didn't play at all, or if you want to go on the practice squad and look at a guy like for me, I know him because he's a Penn State player, Tariq Castro Fields.
I'm going to be a real jerk about this. Ready? The Eagle that will go down as I can't believe he was a member of a Super Bowl winning team is Bryce Huff,
who is inactive for the Super Bowl.
Who was inactive for the Super Bowl. Talk about an A on a group project.
The crazy thing too about it is, the Eagles have a need at edge, and it's going to be surprising because you're seeing a lot of players in the last couple of days that are being able to seek trades per their team. And I saw somebody pose it as, with the way the cap is, eating the dead money, knowing that the cap is going to rise for the next deal that the TV deal in 2029, that they're willing to let go of players that may have not have worked out in year one or year two and put them on the trade block. Now, there's been a number of guys who have been with the team longer than that are being able to, being able to seek a trade, like Deebo Samuel, you have Matt Stafford, you have Jonah Jackson, Harold Landry. So there's a number of guys who are allowed. Doesn't always mean that they're going to be traded. It's just kind of what's their value and kind of go from there. But Bryce Huff could be a guy that they do let that, and maybe they net a late round pick somewhere, or maybe I saw somebody post like a disappointing player for a disappointing player, like a Bryce Huff to Atlanta for Kyle Pitts. It would be interesting. Pitts has been very underwhelming. Atlanta needs pass rush help badly. They've needed that for years. Basically, since John Abraham was on the Falcons, it seems like they've always needed pass rush help, and they can't seem to find any. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Howie Roseman talked in Indy, was saying about the way this team's going to look and just, the patience and stuff like that, which to me, it's just like he knows they're going to lose players. And you just have to almost like weather the storm, because you're not going to have the same team. You're not going to be able to run it.
You're a Super Bowl winning team. You're not going to repeat.
You're going to lose some guys. Teams are going to overpay, and it's just how it works. But it's just interesting to hear him say that, because Zach Bond is their priority, and it's been reported multiple times. He is their priority, their number one priority to get re-signed. And we'll see where it goes, but it's going to be very interesting the way they mold this roster and reshape this roster. And again, you have to have faith in Howie because of what he's done numerous years since he's been back in that general manager role. He's got 2 Super Bowls. They've been to 3 Super Bowls. So you got to give the benefit of the doubt for him to build the team, whether through the draft, through bargain free agents, through trades, whatever it may be. But should be interesting. But the last thing I want to bring up is the old tush-push drama. Teams are complaining about the tush-push line get banned. The Green Bay Packers put a request for banning the play, citing really nothing, because when the general manager was posed the question at the podium yesterday, he had mentioned they don't do very well against it, and they haven't really looked too much into it and to know the data and all that. Well, the data came out today, and there were no reported injuries with the tush-push. So right now, what you're talking about is like a Sean McDermott saying, complaining about it, how there's an injury risk and everything, when there's an injury risk on every play. Every single play in the NFL, there's an injury risk. So for the coaches that want to ban it, it's just because one team has gotten so good and have the personnel and execute it and practice it and are able to run it to such a great extent. Eagles were
Well,
39.
they can't even practice it, Johnny. It's not a play that you practice.
Well, the Eagles are able to practice it. Now it's a certain specific way that they figured out how to kind of practice it, but Eagles were 38 of 49.
It is soft as hell that people are requesting to ban a successful play. That is one of the softest things I have heard in the history of the NFL. It is moronic. It is stupid.
I think Sean McDermott needs to be more concerned about the fact that his quarterback is one of the most reckless runners in the NFL and has no regard for his own personal safety. Instead of worrying,
you know what? They shouldn't play in the snow. That's dangerous.
It is if you think about it, but it's just it's a play that's so good and so almost automatic. It's an automatic first down or touchdown. It was only effective on 80% of the plays that they tried it. So that's not automatic. 80% is not automatic. 100%.
80%, but then they were able to go for it on fourth down because 8 of 9 of those stops were on third down, which then they did the same thing on fourth down, and they made all 8 times. So they were 48 of 49.
Well, I'm seeing the numbers towards my argument, Johnny.
Hey, I got to get
and the thing is, like, okay, you mentioned that they were running it on third down and running it on fourth down. What are you doing on first and second down when they're running basic offensive plays? You're not stopping it. So, you know what? I think it is absolutely stupid that the Green Bay Packers are whining so much about the tush push because other teams can't run it. By the way, the Baltimore Ravens, they run it.
They run with the tight end. Green Bay Packers did it too in the playoff game. I think two or three times.
It's not our fault that Jordan Love can't figure out which hole to go through.
That's why they use their tight ends to do it.
Sounds like a personal problem for Jordan.
That's why I phrased it that way. He's the real reason that Love hurts.
Yeah. He does like his balls do go to other guys. So
all right, sir.
Oh, here we go.
Grow up.
No, you had certain
Johnny,
coaches.
come on.
I know. The family show. Raheem Morris, he complained about it. Sean McDermott complained about it. But there are some coaches that said, they have no problem with it. You have to find a way to stop it. It's like what's next? Are we going to ban too high safety? Are we going to ban blitzes? Are we going to ban, come on.
We got to ban Joe Burrow having wide receivers.
Yeah, it gets to a point where it's, come on. I understand if there's a constant injuries that you see, then maybe there's a somewhat of a conversation, but you can get injured in any play in the NFL.
I mean, they banned hip drop tackles and then didn't enforce it. I saw the Chiefs hip drop tackling in the Super Bowl.
Great point.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine who does my fantasy football podcast with me, Nate, he's a Ravens fan. And the one game, I think it was the season opener against the Chiefs. They called all these penalties on the Ravens for legal man downfield. There is one of the new things that they're harping on in the offseason going in. And of course, the opener, it's against the defending Super Bowl champions, blah, blah, blah. But then they're calling all this stuff on the Ravens, and the Chiefs were hip drop tackling left and right. No calls there. Also, I want to say, I know that you wanted to end on the tush push, but did you see the piece that came out? Travis Kelce was really sick before the Super Bowl. That's why he played so bad.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, shut up, dude. Just retire. You're not even the best athlete in your own family.
Here's the only thing that I'm going to say about anything Super Bowl related. You can say that, hey, Chris Jones got hurt. You can say that Travis Kelce was ill.
Well, Chris
there
Jones.
There is no excuse that defends 34-0.
You got your asses kicked.
You got your asses handed to you. You were not prepared to go against the best team in football.
Nope.
Nothing. Okay, you made it close. You made it 40-22. Neat for you guys. Those were all junk time points. Yeah. Nothing that you said. Taylor Swift got booed, and Travis Kelce was very sad about it. And
good.
Shut it. There is nothing that defends 34-0.
I will say this. I remember after Indy Reid got fired, and then he won his first Super Bowl with the Chiefs. People were coming at me for whatever reason, like I'm Jeff Lurie. No, I'm not. Oh, it was so stupid that, they fired him, blah, blah, blah. And in this game, he showed exactly what was going on towards the later stages of his career as the Philadelphia Eagles head coach.
It wasn't the later stages. It was showing what happened in the championship games, and we used to watch time and time again.
Poor game management, you just abandon the run. You have a quarterback who's not doing well. You're not helping him out. The line, I know they did some juggling on the line, but that line did not hold up. And 0 blitzes in that game. It's a thing of beauty.
0 blitzes. No, it was a thing of beauty. It's going to be interesting to see what this Philadelphia Eagles do, Howie Roseman, how they attack free agency with their own players and with players from other teams and who they bring in, how they revamp this roster and what they do going forward. We're going to be here to break it all down when and if and when they make player acquisitions. So we'll be here next week. We're going to talk about potential free agents and going to give our list of about 4 to 5 guys that we could see them signing, given the way the salary cap is, given the player holes that they have, which isn't very many at all. And, they may see a lot of role players on there or a lot of lower level guys, but there's also for free agencies and trades. So keep that in mind, Chip. There's trades allowed as well. So
I know you're going to literally sell the farm for Myles Garrett. I am aware. Even though the Browns have said flat out they're not trading him. Can't wait for them to trade him.
I may not have Myles Garrett on there. I may switch it up and throw someone else on there that you may not be thinking of. So
Max Crosby, I'm already with you.
No, it's not. Tune in next week and you'll find out. But thanks everyone for tune in. Make sure you're following all the social medias at the bottom there, X, Instagram, the YouTube channel. Thanks, Mike, for joining us, as always. Going to have more of you in the off season. Got a lot to talk about. You got to make up
for draft. I will gladly come back on.
After the draft, you're going to help us break down some of the prospects and stuff.
Well, listen, all AATBirds fans, sorry I haven't been on lately. I'm scouting up to 60 players for the Dynasty Rewind Rookie Draft Guide, and I'm working mandatory 10-hour days at work. I am freaking exhausted.
Just hopefully you don't take his advice, like some of you may have taken his advice on Kenny Pickett and Jay Sternberger. But
hey, you know what? 3 strikes and you're out, buddy. Ask Chip. He's an ump. Look, it's one of those things. These guys are given opportunities, and Kenny Pickett is a Super Bowl champion. What I would love to see, by the way, is Kenny Pickett getting traded to the Cleveland Browns, and then for the next 6 years, he goes 2-0 against Pittsburgh every single year. Because I will say this. I live in Eastern Pennsylvania. There's a lot of Steelers fans here. We hate Cowboys fans, but Steelers fans are the most delusional fan base in the NFL. Hands down, every year, we're going to win it, we're going to win it, we're going to win it. And then
they were just 3 or 4 moves away from being Super Bowl champions this year.
And yet they all hate Mike Tomlin. Every single Steelers fan I know hates Mike Tomlin. I'm like, hey, man.
Well, he hasn't won a playoff game in almost a decade.
Yeah, but that's not all his fault.
The last time the Steelers won a playoff game, I believe. You know what? Let me look it up.
It was
when
2016.
2016. Yeah. We've won 2 Super Bowls since.
I was about to say, Eagles had 0 Super Bowls last time Steelers won a playoff game.
And by the way, there's a ship docked in Philadelphia. It has been there so long that before it was parked there that's how long it's been since the Dallas Cowboys has been in the NFC Championship game. That ship has been there for 30 years, ladies and gentlemen.
And on that note, hey, go Birds!
I have one more thing I got to say. I don't know if I ever gave you guys this sound drop or not. It's from an old friend of ours.
Do you have fire in your gut?
Oh, God. Oh, jeez.
You're welcome.
I didn't bring something like that. But also good news. I don't know, Mike, if you saw, the Eagles did re-sign Lou Nichols. He's another one of your prospects.
Cool.
Oh, boy. But no, as we always do, we always end it with a very happy, joyful, go Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.